In this Blender tutorial, I will show you how to edit a long sequence of video clips using shortcuts and proxies. Other tutorials can be found in my playlists. I should be using version 2.81. Now at present this is an alpha version, though it hasn't changed that much from 2.8, and I don't think it's going to change much from the point of view of video editing. So first thing to do, got some options here. Left click on the option that says video editing, and this will take you into the video editor. It'll look very similar to this. You won't have this view here. I've just done it so that you can see some of the keystrokes that I'm using. So first thing, if you've never used Blender before, a couple of things to make note of. It's not an all singing dancing video editor, so resolutions, need to make sure the resolutions match your original video, because it will not change. So if I brought in an aspect ratio that was different, say I don't know, a 4:3, which is it's almost squarer video, all Blender will do is stretch it. So if I had a circle, I'd end up with an oval. So make sure this matches your video. If it's not something like 1920 by 1080, make sure you're at 100% here, and just keep an eye on the frame rate. Blender always comes in at 24 frames per second. It should change, but if not, make sure you set this to the frame rate by left clicking on it and selecting the frame rate that matches your video. But as I said, it should change. Okay, so that's that. If you're going to do a lot of videos, forget this browser, because using this browser creates all sorts of problems. Also, if you paste them in from a folder, again, you won't be able to batch convert all of your videos into proxies. At least I can't. So what I would do is place my pointer in the timeline tracks, then hold down Shift followed by A, and then left click on Movie, and this will bring up this is a slightly newer browser. Now you need to go to the video where your videos are stored. You've got to double click it, you can go back using these buttons, but it's just, you should start at the beginning. Anyway, one thing you won't be able to do is see thumbnails of your videos. So if you come up to the sort of top right, there's a box. If you hover your pointer over, it says display mode. Left click on this and then left click thumbnails, and this will bring up your thumbnail view. Roll your middle mouse, you probably know all this, and till you get to the first video you want to use. Now I've got a lot of rubbish in here, but I'm going to use this one here, so I'm going to just left click on this one. Now if you hold down Control, select your next one, then Control and select your next one, and Control, select your next one. Make sure the videos that you are going to use have been selected, and then left click add movie strip, and wait for your videos to come in to this strip here. Okay, a couple of things you can do here is you can roll your middle mouse in this panel here to increase or decrease the size of your view. You can also roll your middle mouse in the timeline tracks to decrease or increase your view. So I'm going to roll this out so I can see all 4 tracks. And also, if you hold down your middle mouse, you can move this from left to right. Okay. Don't do anything with your videos until you've created your proxies. Also, Blender as a default brings in 250 frames, and that's your lot. So i.e. it renders from frame 1 to frame 250. You can see them up here or down here. So first of all, we need to change this, because at present if I was to render this, I'd only get 250 of, I don't know how many frames are here right now, but anyway, and that's, in fact, it would chop the very first video. So we need to get to the end of the last clip. So I'm going to just roll my mouse so I can actually see the end. The easiest way to do this is just use page up until you get to the end. Now if you look down here, it will tell you, it's to the left of this start button here, it will tell you the end frame. Now it used to be on older versions, if you placed your pointer near this marker, you could just press E and it would snap to. This would snap over. At present it doesn't appear to work, so it's just as easy to make a note down here of the tracks, because realistically you're going to change them before you finish rendering anyway. So it doesn't really make much difference, but it will make a difference when you want to do your proxies. So make sure that you at least match this up here at the end where it says 250. Now as I said, this says 3793, so I'm actually going to just left click on the 250 end and I'm going to type in 4000 and hit return. And that's actually given me a little bit more. We'll finish. I'll show you at the end how just what you want to do to finish this. So that's my first point. As I said, do not do anything with these clips until you've done your proxies. Come over to the right hand side and left click on Proxy Cache. Make sure that the proxy settings box is open by left clicking on the little arrow, and make sure that the storage says per strip and not project. Now the first thing we need to do is left click on set selected strip proxies and decide what size we're going to use. I'm going to use 25% because it's only just the view. I mean, in fact, what I'll just explain a little bit what a proxy is. Obviously, if I clicked on 25%, I'm going to end up with a video that, in essence, is 25% smaller. It'll be a lot more pixelated, but it won't use the kind of resources up that your high definition or 4K videos would use. In fact, what I'll do is I'll just show you something a minute very quickly. If I try and drag this along here, as you can see, it doesn't want to play. So again, I'm going to just go into set selected strip proxies, and I'm going to select 25% and I'm going to just left click OK, and this will create videos that are a lot smaller and don't use the kind of resources that a high definition one would. Now the only other thing to think about, especially if you've already done some work on your videos, is there is a box that says overwrite. You can bring your old proxies back in, but it's just as easy if you've already created proxies to put a tick in the overwrites box before you create your proxies, and then left click rebuild proxy and timecode indices, and a box will come up here. It says build in proxies. You're gonna have to wait for this to finish. Now once Blender is finished creating your proxy clips, place your pointer in the monitor and hit N on your keyboard. And then next to proxy render size, left click scene render size. Now left click on the size that you created, so in this instance it was 25%. And then press N to remove that box. And now you should find that your videos track a lot better. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do is press page down to take me to the first frame. Now instead of cutting the beginning or changing the beginning, what I'm going to do is just hold my left mouse button down, so it's place my pointer sort of over the middle of the first video and audio track. Hold my left mouse button down and draw a box over the first two videos. And now if you press G for grab, you can move the video to the left and move it to the point where you want your video to start, and then left click. Now this section here won't get rendered because you're going to be rendering from frame 1. So that's a quick way of starting your video. Now if you want to play your video, you've got a couple of buttons here, or you can use your space bar. And then space to stop. So that's the point I'm going to finish this video. Now if you place your pointer over the end of your video, and then hold down Control and left click, this should happen. So you should see two figures come up, which means that you've selected both the end of the audio and the video. Bearing in mind that this is where I want the video to start, you just hold down Shift followed by S, and that will take you to the end of, or where your marker is. Incidentally, if at any time you want to change this, if you just press G, you can grab them back out again. I'm going to right click so I go back to my original cut, if you like. I'm going to drag this along to the next clip and just get to the point where I want it to start. Again, you can play it or it hits your space bar, and this is where I want this one to start. So with your pointer near the beginning, hold down Control and then left click. Now hold down Shift followed by S. Hit page down to go to the start of your first video clip, and then hold down your left mouse button and drag a box over your second video clip, and then hold down Shift followed by S, and that will snap it to the end of your first video clip. I'm going to just drag this along to the point where I want it to finish, and hold down Control near the end and then left click, and it didn't work. Do it twice and it did, and then Shift S to snap the video back to the point I want it to finish. Now this is where it does come in handy if you've got a long clip and you want to chop it about. So I'm going to start this video here, Control and left click at the beginning, Shift S to snap this back, hold down my left mouse button, make sure that the video is selected, page down, then Shift S. drag this to the point where I want it to finish, or as I said before, you can use your space bar to play and stop. So we'll stop this one here, Control and left click at the end, Shift S and snap this one to the end mark. Now I'm going to just show you something that you can do in the middle of a clip. If you wanted to chop a clip up, for instance, so let's say I wanted to remove the middle. If I just drag this to here, you need to make sure that the clip is selected. So just again, hold down your left mouse button, drag a box over the audio and video clip, and then press K. Drag this over, and again press K. Hold your left mouse button down, drag it over the section you want to remove, press X, and then erase strip. Now, older versions, this literally removed the video, but now you can actually hold down Control and your left mouse button, and if you wanted to, you can press G and drag this back out again to the point where you want your video to finish. But because I'm going to keep this simple, I'm not going to do that, so I'm going to just right click. And also, if you make mistakes, if you hold down Control followed by Z, you can literally go back, I think, about 10 places. So this is taking this so that there isn't any cuts anymore. Okay, let's just get this to the point where I want it to. It wobbles there. Okay, and again, Control left mouse at the beginning, Shift S, page down, left mouse and select the video and audio track, Shift S to take this back, and finally I'm going to drag this along to the point where I want it to finish. This is where it doesn't matter. Remember when I typed 4000 in up here, and this is my point I'm going to make. It really doesn't matter because I'm going to have to change it again because I want this video to finish here. So in this box down here it says 1097, so I'm going to come up to the end box where I've got at present 4000. I'm going to left click and type in 1097 and hit return. And now if you look, I've got this section here which is sort of highlighted, it's a different color, so it will render from this point to this point. So all we need to do now is render this video. Slide this bar down, and in the output box you see something that says TMP, and there's a little folder. Left click on this and then decide where you want to save your video. I'm going to save it on my desktop, so I'm going to just left click desktop. Now unlike more recent older versions of Blender, you need to place your description in this box here. So left click and type in whatever you want. I'm going to just type in trains. And then left click accept, and then left click accept again. Next thing, file format. At present it will say PNG. Now if I rendered this now, I would end up with 1097 pictures. So left click on PNG and then left click FFmpeg video. Open up the encoding box. Again, drag this down. and at present it's saying that the container is Matroska. Now you can change this. You've got different options, QuickTime, div, you've got all sorts of different options. I'm not going to play around with this, I'm going to leave this at Matroska. Make sure your video codecs is correct, and in this instance it is. Again, you can change these, but I'm going to leave it as it is. And the output quality, I would change it from medium quality by left clicking on it to high quality. Finally, audio. If I rendered this right now, I wouldn't end up with any audio, so make sure the audio box is open, and then left click on no audio and decide on the audio I'm going to use. So I don't know, for quickness I'm going to left click on MP3. So that's set up. So very quickly, make sure you've got your folder set up, your codecs or your containers, your quality, and also your audio. Top of the screen to the right there's a button that says render. Left click on this. Now make sure you left click on render animation, and you're going to have to wait for your video to finish rendering, but this is a point I will go over. As you can see, this is pretty good quality, so the proxy hasn't made any difference. I'll come back to this when it's finished rendering. Once your video is finished rendering, you can close this box down, and then hopefully you should have a video that plays reasonably well. Hopefully this helps somebody. Thank you for watching. Cheers.